Those of you who didn't understand all the detail for number 31 today in class, I just figured I'd go over it one more time for you. So for this one, we are rationalizing denominators. Remember, we don't want to have square roots in the denominator. So to get rid of the square root of 7 and the square root of 2, we have to multiply by the conjugate. Remember that word, conjugate? Okay, so conjugate's a really important term. It's a really important concept as you get further and further in math. So the conjugate of our denominator changes the sign of one of the two terms. I usually change the middle one. So we're going to multiply by the square root of 7 minus the square root of 2. If I do that in the denominator, I also have to do that in the numerator. And remember, we're targeting the denominator because the denominator is where we don't want to have our square roots. Okay? So at this point, we just have two binomial things to multiply out. So we're just going to FOIL them. Remember, first, outer, inner, last. So in our numerator, we're going to do 2 times the square root of 7, which is 2 root 7. And we're going to do 2 times the square root of 2, so that's minus 2 root 2. I'm going to use a different color here so that you can see the difference between them. So square root of 14 times the square root of 7 is next. So plus the square root of 14 times 7. And the square root of 14 times the square root of 2. So minus the square root of 14 times 2. So that's all in our numerator. In our denominator, we do the same thing. So square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is the square root of 49. Square root of 7 times the square root of 2, so minus the square root of 14. I'm going to change my color for my second term. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 7, so plus the square root of 14. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2, so minus the square root of 4. Now we go to simplifying. Okay, so in the denominator, I've got a positive square root of 14 and a negative square root of 14, so those disappear. We also have the square root of 49. Hopefully you know that's 7 by now. Minus square root of 4 is 2. So 7 minus 2 equals 5. So 5 is our denominator. In the numerator, you'll notice that I did not simplify, I did not multiply out some of these things that we've got. So I'm going to rewrite it, and we're going to look a little bit more closely at it. So 2 root 7 minus 2 root 2 plus the square root of 14 times 7 minus the square root of 14 times 2. So let's do pink. So the square root of 14 times 7 is the square root of 2 times 7 times 7. That gives me a pair of 7s, so that's 7 root 2. And then 14 times 2, we have the square root of 7 times 2 times 2. Gives me a pair of 2s, so the 2s come out, so we have 2 root 7. So you'll notice now that I have some like radicals. I have negative 2 root 2, and I have 7 root 2. I also have 2 root 7 and a minus 2 root 7. And those two then cancel. So we're left with just 7 root 2 minus 2 root 2, which is 5 times the square root of 2. You'll notice that we have a 5 in the numerator, 5 in the denominator. Those will cancel, so we're left just with the square root of 2. It's as simple as that. I hope I gave you enough detail so that you could see exactly what was going on. If you still don't understand it, please let me know in class. Okay?